Ah. Bodyguard. Bodyguard. Bodyguard.
You may not enter. This room has experienced a breach. Radiation level critical.
Bodyguard,
You may
can you
not
hear me?
enter. This room has
If you can hear me,
experienced a
bodyguard,
breach.
please knock on this door
Radiation
twice.
level critical.
Or just knock on the
You
wall.
may not enter.
Can you do that for me? Can
This
you
room
knock on
has
this wall twice
experienced
for
a
me?
breach.
If you can hear me?
Radiation level critical.
Please?
You may not enter.
Bodyguard?
This room has experienced
Are you
a
there?
breach. Radiation
Can you do that
level
for me?
critical. You may not
Knock on the
enter.
door twice,
This
please,
room has
bodyguard.
experienced a breach. Radiation level critical.
Please.
You may not enter.
Please,
This room
bodyguard,
has experienced a breach. Radiation level critical. You may not enter. This room has experienced a breach. Radiation level critical.
You know, when something like this happens, you take a good, long, hard look back on your life, on all the good things and bad things you've contributed to the world. And when I think about it, I have a lot of regrets. Biggest of all being the time I caused Joe Biden to nuke the whole country. But I also have a lot of other regrets, and seeing as we have all the time in the world and nothing to do with it, let me recount them for you. The first video I've uploaded to YouTube, well, the first video chronologically that I made was The Agents from 2015. And it's not, I mean, there's a ton wrong with it. Pretty much everything with it is wrong, but it's not really its own fault. We were basically like 11 or whatever when we made it, so I kind of forgive it for a lot of its faults, but the things that irk me about it are we knew so little about making videos that we just interchanged between filming in portrait and landscape without even thinking. It's like, oh, that was such a disaster. And then, like, everything was improvised. There was no planning for the story at all. And, I mean, it was fun, so I consider it a success. Thompson's Team. Thompson's Team is the first of many blunders. I mean, again, it was fun to make, and it's good fun. It's just a home movie, but it has a lot of mistakes in that it is a series. And one mistake I've made repeatedly is trying to make a series. For some reason, my brain is fixated on the idea of making series, and it's a bad idea every time because my enthusiasm for projects go down over time. And when it's just a video, it's okay because it only goes down a little. But if you're making a series, by the time you reach the end, you're at the end of your rope as far as how much you care about the series. And so you're just like, I mean, you're just like, I guess I'm doing this now, but do I really care? In this case, I only made 3 episodes before I quit. And part of it was a problem of going beyond what was possible for me at the time. So I wrote a script for episode 4 and 5, and it just became beyond my budget and resource constraints. So, for example, I wanted scenes at all these different locations that we didn't have access to, and I wanted to introduce all these new characters, and I didn't know enough people to be all those characters. I didn't have enough friends to get and make a movie with them. So it's like, we've got 6 characters and 2 people. How are we going to do this? And it's like, just a terrible idea. So the 2 big mistakes that I made repeatedly that started around here was going beyond what I can physically do and trying to make a series. And these are mistakes I make over and over again. Now, the ice challenge, it's just a bad video. There's everything about it's a mistake. It's just a video of people putting ice cubes down the back of their shirts, and it's not that good. It's 18 minutes of boring garbage, and for a long time it was the most popular video on my channel. It's like, why? It sucks. The 0 subscriber special, The only mistake in this one is I use the word content, which is like an annoying social media influencer word, and I don't like using it, but I used it once in that time, and I regret it. It's a big regret. The worst Doctor Who spin-off ever? Just kidding, it's the greatest Doctor Who spin-off ever. This video has no flaws. It's amazing. Every time I made a vlog ever, like I mean like a travel vlog, it's just bad because it's boring. And there's a simple things I can say. It's boring because I didn't cut enough out. When you're making travel vlogs, you have to be extremely liberal with your slicing, your cutting stuff out, because when you're making it, you as an editor, as someone who's there, you're remembering the fun memories. You're like, oh, this was fun, and it's fun for you, but it's boring for everyone else. It's like, who cares? It's like, well, there was a fun detail at the time, and it's like, no. And you have to decide what your intention is. Is it for me to remember, or is it as like an entertainment for other people to watch, to sort of see the world through this lens? And I think part of the problem was I was making a video for the sake of making a video, and I wasn't thinking about who the audience was, which, I mean, fair enough, it's just good fun, but it means the final product sucked. It is the first time a purple hat is seen, which is cool. I think the other problem is I'm always too nervous to film around other people. So when I'm filming with family, I'm always trying to skirt around that, and it makes a very claustrophobic viewing experience. You don't get nice cinematic shots. Also, camcorders do not get nice cinematic shots. Squishy Obama was an essay I wrote for school about, it was a descriptive essay about an object, and I decided to turn it into a video. The only problem was the lens was smudged, so it was very foggy and out of focus for the whole video, and that I didn't notice until I started editing it, and I tried to play it off as like, oh, it's a dreamlike quality, but in reality, it just sucked. It just looked awful, and it suffers from it. Fixing famous faces, I don't like doing unscripted videos because I'm not particularly good at being entertaining unscripted, as you can tell from watching this video right now. Luckily for me, I have a lot of information in my head about this specific topic. I've thought a lot about these videos over time, so I have a lot of material I can use to discuss. So I'm not just blathering on. Well, I am blathering on, but I'm blathering on knowledgeably, which is completely different from blathering on stupidly. Debatable. The frustrating thing was that this again was one of my most popular video, I think. And it's just like, it's always the low effort garbage videos that get to be the most popular. And it's like, how come none of the videos I like become the most popular? It's always the garbage ones that become most popular, and that frustrates me. And then a lot of these videos just kind of suck because they suck. They're made by me when I was like 11. The Why I'm Quitting YouTube video has a terrible, terrible, terrible rendition of Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up that I made myself. And it's maybe the first in a trend of me trying to make my own music that is just totally dreadful. You'll see again and again through this list when it happens. The Woody video, it was a horror movie about a Woody Toy Story toy becoming evil, and it was a lot of fun to make. We didn't finish it, and the audio got corrupted in my editing software, so it's mostly silent. Whoops. That's annoying. The new Zuckerberg video, I recorded audio separately from video, and I didn't bother practicing to lip sync it, so it just looks really weird and bad. So yeah, that sucks. The Whole Doofuses series, it was a series of 10 videos where I just talk about stuff, just like this one, except worse, debatably, and I just hated it. And it was, again, a trend. I tried to make a series, and by the time I finished it, I hated it, and it was unscripted. Two things: unscripted series, bad. The Whole Doofuses series, I made 10 episodes because I wanted it to end it on a round number. Aperture. Aperture was fun. It was one of the first videos I made where I didn't try to make a movie out of the scope of what I could do. And I think that was really in its favor. It still sucks, but it sucks in like I'm still a little proud of it way. And I think the biggest problem it suffers from is because I entered it in this local film festival, the part of the rules for the film festival were the videos had to be 5 minutes or shorter. And so, well, the video is 5 minutes / shorter, 4:56. And it suffers from that because it's rushed in a couple of places, and I didn't know at the time, but looking back on it, there's a lot of stuff where there's like character motivations are just missing because the scenes aren't included. It needs more scenes, maybe a couple more characters, and definitely needs expansion upon like every phase of the story, because it's about a guy getting a magical camera that can capture whatever it takes a video of inside the camera. It like sucks it inside the camera, sort of. And so basically, it's just a classic story of a guy getting a magical ability, using it for his own personal gain, being corrupted by it, and then his eventual downfall with a Twilight Zone style ironic ending. And there's just a lot of things. The discovery phase where the main character is discovering new things about how the camera works. It's in like every superhero movie as they're experimenting with their powers. This is a staple in movies, and it just needed to be a little longer, and then followed by his rise to power. We needed that to take a longer time. We needed his corruption to take a longer time, because it's all so sudden. It happens instantly, bum 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 bum, and it suffers from that. The lead up to the climax is just very rushed. It's like weird. I filmed it like a couple of days before the deadline for the film festival. I'm wearing a wrong shirt. It's like weirdly cut. There's dissolves everywhere because I was squeezing it into the 5-minute time limit. It's just like, oh, um, it it should have been a better, more drawn out, more dramatic lead up to the climax. And as well as just there's some weird logic issues and character motivation issues that just it could have been better. I think it could use to be like maybe 15 or 20 minutes. That could be good. Also, I had this idea. I just want to say it now because I'll never say it anytime else. I had this like evil idea for making this like way darker version of this movie. But first of all, I wouldn't have done it at the time, and I probably still wouldn't do it now because A, I wouldn't have had the visual effects skills required, and B, I wouldn't have been wanting to make something that dark, especially for a film festival with entries mostly made by kids. Although now that I think about it, we did enter a really dark video into that film festival anyway. So the idea was pushing the limit of the logic of this magical camera, because it's like it's a video camcorder that captures whatever you take a video of inside it. It's like, first of all, how does that work? Does it have to be in focus? And that's sort of one of those things that's like, it doesn't really matter magic logic, but when you think about it, it's like, what if you have a very shallow depth of field? What if you only like you have a person and the shallow depth of field is so shallow? Does it just take a slice out of them? Ugh. But then it's like, okay, ignoring that, what if you take someone, you've got them captured in your camera, and you copy the files onto your computer and you duplicate them? Now, do you now have two copies of that person? Can you make a clone of that person? And then it's like, what if the main character turned like total psychopath evil, and he like took copies of these people, and he like did like visual effects to them, like sliced them in half, and like did like evil heinous punishments to them, like this time I'm gonna compress you into a little ball and crush all your bones, and this time I'm gonna explode you, and this time I'm gonna, and it's just like it could be so dark. And I don't think I'd want to make that because it's like it makes you feel gross, but it's super gnarly as well. I shouldn't have said gnarly. I'm never saying that again. Why did I say gnarly? I never say gnarly. I certainly wouldn't want to play the main character for that because I just can't act that well, and I don't think I'd be willing to play that kind of insano character. I forgot to say this earlier, but there's this one line in Aperture that I really hate. It really bothers me. And it's in the scene where the main character is meeting with a potential client. And the thing is, the story is about the guy uses the camera as a business to get rid of bullies, so he has a helpline where it's like, are you being bullied? Call me for help. And basically what he does is he goes and traps them in his camera so that they can't bully anymore. He makes money from it. The part I don't like, so the guy asks, how do you make the bullies go away? And the main character goes, I put them in some kind of cage. And it's like, whoa, that's like it's like that's like way creepier than that. That's like the worst euphemism you could ever use for that. That's like the worst metaphor ever. That's like even creepier than just telling the truth. What he should say is something along the lines of, I have a way of preventing them from bothering you, or something like that, something extremely vague. But instead he says like the most uncomfortable, creepy, incriminating thing you could possibly say in that circumstance, where you go, I put them in a sort of cage. It's like, ugh, I just hate that line. It bothers me so much, and I had to say it because I forgot to say it earlier.
I guess you could say I keep them in a sort of cage.
Now, sorry, now that I've rambled on about that video for a billion years, let's move on to... I tried to make a birthday video for the first birthday of the YouTube channel. That was a cello cover of Birthday by the Beatles, and it was just so awful. I had a headache when I filmed it, and I didn't know how to record things and keep on rhythm and play well. I'm still not that good at cello, but then I was really abysmally bad at cello, so that's that. Darts. It was a lot of fun. It was a fun darts movie. It was another one where I feel like we were starting to figure out how to make movies that were actually kind of alright. It suffers from two things. One of them is a couple of days before filming the video, I took a glass cup, and I put it up to my mouth, and I sucked, just absentmindedly, probably while watching a movie or something, and it bruised my entire, like a ring around my face, and when we filmed it, I still had the bruise, and I can't watch that without being like, ew, I have that weird bruise on my face, yuck. And then secondly, in my version of the video, I tried to make my own recording of Eye of the Tiger because for the training montage, and it was just abysmally bad. It was so bad it's not even funny. It's just like awful, awful. It's like that Seven Nation Army cover, but just, oh no. The Agent's Top Secret. It was one of my biggest projects ever at the time, and it probably suffers the most from the problem of not having the resources required to execute the kind of movie I wanted to make. Because it was meant to be an action spy movie, like a Mission Impossible movie, and it didn't have the budget, didn't have the resources for it. It was clear, but I still tried to make it anyway, even though I knew I had read multiple books about making videos that were saying use the resources you have, and I just ignored it. And I was like, I'm making a spy movie. And I mean, it was fun, and the video turned out goofy and fun, but I think the biggest takeaway from this, and if I can actually communicate genuine advice to people, don't let your imagination delude you when making videos. If you're imagining these locations and these special effects and stuff in your mind when making a video, you have to be able to make them a reality for the viewer, because your imagination is not transferable to the viewer. So you may be imagining this grandiose villain's lair, but what your viewers are seeing are just the same 4 rooms in your suburban household over and over and over again, and also the same 2 actors recycled over and over and over again as multiple characters, which it isn't our fault. There was only four, I mean, for the most part, 2 of us, but occasionally we coerced to get 4 of us to make that video. I still like it. It's good fun. It was a fun movie to make, but looking back on it, it's like, I should have just, like, been smarter. Also, another huge mistake. About a quarter of the way through filming, I realized movies have character development. Movies are meant to have character development. So I was like, we need character development. So we added a little scene where my character is like, oh, I can't do this. I don't want to kill people. I guess his arc was meant to be he becomes okay with killing people. It's like, is that a good thing? Does he become better, or does he just, like, lose his morality? And it doesn't question it. Or is it meant to be like his arc is he mans up? But the bigger problem is, not only did I start having character arcs like a quarter of the way through the movie, I forgot about them about halfway through the movie. So we have character arcs like started and introduced partway through the movie, and then forgotten for the rest of the movie. And it's just like, how could I be so stupid? Building castles is hard. Was the first one made at this location. It actually is the first of this arc of videos, and it sucks. This whole series, I was planning, because for a long time I wanted to build a fort out in the wilderness somewhere. First I tried doing it at the old location, and then I tried doing it here. The problem is, I'm a lazy loser, and I don't do it. So basically every video was me not doing work. And that was meant to be the joke at first, but then it just was boring, and nothing ever happened in any of the videos. It was just videos of me not doing stuff. It's like, that's not entertaining. The castle never got built. I eventually just sort of transformed the series into whatever nonsense is going on now, which I think is, to be honest, a little bit fun. But those first few videos are just such a bore to watch. Craig was a lot of fun. It's meant to be sort of a parody of 1960s Doctor Who, and I made 2 episodes of it, as always, and I dropped it because lesson number 1. Andrew sucks at making series. Constructive criticism, that video was meant to be a joke about like someone who is just continually insulting you but just keeps on masking it as constructive criticism, and that was meant to be the joke. And it didn't really come out how I wanted it because it comes off way more mean-spirited. I mean, that's sort of the premise, that it's mean-spirited, but I feel like somewhere in that video I insinuate John Lennon was one of the worst human beings in history. It's like, what? I think I'd recently read like about like John Lennon supposedly beating his wife or something, and I was like, John Lennon was a bad guy, and it's like so weird, and it's not a good enough idea to remake. It's just like it's got to stick that way. It's got to be bad permanently because I'm not remaking that video. It's not that clever. Bill Gates in my bones. This video might be currently my favorite video I've ever made. It's just the frustrating thing with it is that the first version I uploaded got taken down for medical misinformation, even though the whole thing is clearly meant to be just a humorous joke, not saying anything seriously. And I appealed it, and I was like, I promise this was a joke. I can put disclaimers in the description and title. Please take it down. But no. So I have a community guidelines strike on my YouTube channel because of this video, because I uploaded it and they were like, it's medical misinformation. It's like, who looks at this silly music video about me claiming there are robot Bill Gates heads in your bones growing and multiplying and taking over your brain? Who sees that silly music video and goes, you know, this seems pretty smart. This seems real. This seems real. It's like, what? Who thinks that's real? There's plenty of conspiracy theories out there, but I don't think any of them are as outlandish as miniature metal scale models of Bill Gates with spider legs in your bones. So I had to film the morning I uploaded it and it got taken down. I filmed a disclaimer and I was just like, this ruins it because I hate having to like say something's a joke because it sort of takes the fun out of it. A joke is a joke because it's a joke. You don't explain that something's a joke. And so I had to put official comedy music video in the title. It's like, I don't want to describe anything as comedy because, well, first of all, I don't know, that I feel like that's giving myself too much credit to call it comedy. And also, like, for a music video, you want to get right into the music. And the fact that there's 45 seconds of disclaimer before it is just like, you want to get right into it. I just think how many viewers have clicked on that video and gone, oh, this disclaimer is boring, and click off. It's like, I just want to get to the silly fun. I don't want to be saying anything. So, fun fact, if you want to see the most angry I've ever been on video, that disclaimer I filmed at the start of Bill Gates in my bones may be the most angry I've ever been on video. It's just like, I was furious when that morning I filmed that. I tried to make it pretty clear that I thought the whole disclaimer was stupid, while simultaneously being just respectful enough to not be like taken down for, I don't know, disrespecting the YouTube gods or whatever. Also in Bill Gates in my bones, I forgot to mention this earlier, there's this one spot where there's a missing frame where there should be one, it's just blank, and it bothers me so much because it was after I finished the video when I first noticed it, and I was like, oh, I've already done this work, I can't do this now. And I know I had earlier fixed that blank frame, but I think I went on to do something else and then pressed Ctrl-Z one too many times to undo something I did later, and I didn't notice that I had undone the fixing the blank frame, so now there's this blank frame forever in Bill Gates in my bones, which is annoying. Can I name every country in the world video was sort of unnecessary because I can. I've done that quiz a billion times in the past, and I was pretty sure I could get all of them. The only risk was that I'd forget like one. It was sort of a pointless video, but it meant I got to brag about my country memorization skills, so win-win. In episode 7 of this series, or the GeoGuessr episode, which as of filming this you haven't seen it yet, it's the day before it goes live. It's just like, there's one edgy joke in there that I don't love over much. While they're making the solution to government, the long-haired fellow who I vaporized earlier, if you're following the story here, he says, is socialism good or bad? The answer to this question is important. And the other guy goes, I like National Socialism. And I'm like, that joke at the time, I was like, haha, that's funny. And I mean, it's fine because the other character goes, no, that's bad. The reason I'm less comfortable with the joke is A, because the person saying it is me, like, played by me. And it's just one of those things where it's like, I guess a part of the problem is, if the duo of the me character and the advisor character, if it was one of them was the smart one and one of them was the stupid one, it would have been more obvious, because it would have been like the stupid one says this like insano thing, and the smart one goes like, no, no, you can't say that. That's really dumb and stupid. But then the fact is they're both simultaneously the smart one and the stupid one. I wanted it to be a bit like your last two brain cells making decisions. Sometimes they're complete idiots, sometimes they're smart, and they sort of swap roles between those because they're just dumb. I didn't really want to write it so that like the real me is like this smart character and everyone around him is this stupid idiot. I kind of wanted to paint myself as an incompetent loser. I mean, art imitates life, you know? It's just a little bit too close to the edge, in my opinion. I'm going to try and shy away from those sorts of jokes in the future. And I've made a couple of those jokes. These latest episodes about the nuclear attack, that was meant to be a fun, lighthearted thing when I wrote it, which I wrote it in November of 2021. I wrote this whole series of videos back in, well, I didn't write all of them. I wrote the outline for the story, what would happen. And the nuclear stuff was just lighthearted fun at the time. But now, currently, while I'm filming this, there's a war in Ukraine, and a certain president of Russia is threatening nuclear war. So those sort of jokes, those funny bits, become a lot less funny. And I think it's one of those things where it's not that bad. It's not really an issue. It's just bad timing. And in some way it adds to the impact of the story, I think. I think it's a lot more poignant. The thought of nuclear attack is a lot more in our consciousness right now, probably more than it has been in decades. I mean, it's scary, but I feel like it makes the emotions more powerful in association with what happens in the video, which is a really stupid thing to say regarding the silliness of these videos. They're complete garbage, but I'm talking about them as if I'm Francis Ford Coppola being like, it's The Godfather, it's so poignant. It's garbage. What am I talking about? I'm going insane. But I guess a funny thing I'd like to mention real quick, because we're reaching the end of this video, I wrote the story for 12 episodes ahead of time, and I planned it out. And it just struck me a couple of days ago. It's amusing to me because I did this by myself. It's garbage, but I planned it out by myself. And then the multi-billion-dollar corporation of Disney, with their million-dollar series Star Wars, didn't plan out 3 movies. I can by myself plan out 12 videos, but the multi-billion-dollar corporation that is Disney can't plan out 3 movies. Anyway, I'll have to end this video because it's probably really long by now. So, that's about it. That's every regret of my short life.